Good morning everyone. So once again I am here with you all with this video. The video is about the chapter that is the rise of nationalism in Europe, and in the previous video we have discussed that how the idea of nationalism is sprouted in Europe and many of its countries, and also we try to understand that what exactly nationalism means. And in that particular video, I also told you that what are the basic learning objectives of the chapter that we need to understand. And here I have come with this video, and where we are going to discuss, or we will try to understand that one of the most important factors that contributed the emergence of the feeling of nationalism among the people of Europe and the various countries in it. So, in the previous video I have told you the French Revolution and its legacy for the entire world cannot be ignored. So, in this particular video, we will try to understand how the French Revolution has supported or promoted the idea of nation state. So, you might be knowing that in your previous class you have studied that French Revolution was brought out in 1789, and the reason for brought out of French Revolution was what? The people were not happy with the monarchical form of government. The reason the monarchical form of government in the French, the then period, was failed to promote or undertake any such actions or any such policies or program which helped the people of French to grow in the different sphere of their life. It might be social, it might be political, it might be economical. So finding all these things, when the society was divided into two different segments, and they call it as a privileged class and an unprivileged class, the people dissatisfaction grow higher and higher. What is the reasons for growing this dissatisfaction? Somewhere when we deal with the French Revolution, we collect that information that those group of people who were so-called privileged class, they exercise different kind of rights. They avail different kind of facilities. They were getting lots of opportunities. Whereas those people, so-called unprivileged class, they live with the very limited rights and facilities. Ultimately what happened? People who were living in the French, they started to grow a kind of disliking for the government of Louis XVI, and they protest. This protest was for the administrative, social, political, economical changes that people wanted to bring in the French. So, the revolution which broke out in 1789 is come to be known as French Revolution. And apart from the division of the class or people based on the class, which made the people unhappy, apart from that, there was a limited rights given to the people living in the French. So these were some of the reasons for the brought out of the French Revolution. Now, what is the most important thing that we need to understand here is how French Revolution contributed the idea of nation state in the entire Europe, that we need to understand. So to understand that very point, it is very important to know that what sorts of changes French Revolution has brought in French, and with that changes people living in the Europe get fascinated. They also wanted to have that kind of change within the Europe or in their countries. So let us see the changes which were brought by the French Revolution. Was first, the transformation of the government. After the French Revolution, we have noticed that the absolute monarchy, it means absolute monarchy means in the French before Revolution, the entire power was exercised by the king. It means whole power is concentrated or centralized with the king only. So it was the choice of the king, or it was the wish of the king that in which way he wanted to exercise this power. But after French Revolution, what changes has brought? Now the absolute monarchy was transformed into constitutional monarchy. It means now after revolution, the king powers were decentralized and he is there as a constitutional monarchy. When we talk about the constitutional monarchy, it means the power of the king is shared with the elected representatives of the people. So this is the first change that French Revolution has brought. Another change, centralized administrative system introduced and uniform laws were formulated. Correct? Now what is the meaning of centralized administrative system? Just I told you that there was a division of the class, privileged class, unprivileged class, and based on that division, the administrative functions or administrative policies were initiated by the king in the French before the revolution. But after the revolution, what happened? There was a centralized administrative system. Means the administrative system was same for all the people coming from different class background, social background or economical background. Not only that, it has introduced the uniform laws and formulated. Now same kind of laws were made for the people living in the French despite of any kind of their social, economical, political background. So this is another change French Revolution has brought. Third point, the internal custom duties and dues were abolished. You will shock to know that before revolution, within the French, there were 21 different types of custom duties that peoples need to pay. But after the revolution, all that internal custom duties were abolished and similar, same kind of these duties were introduced, the taxes were introduced for the people. Now uniform system of weight and measures were adopted. You might be knowing, you might have studied about the Napoleon in class 9, that how Napoleon has introduced that uniform system of weight and measure. So this is another change. Now French Revolution was adopted as a common language. To overcome any kind of differences, what French has done, it has adopted French as a one common language, so that every people who are coming from different dialect background or language background, who find themselves as a different with each other, to eradicate these differences, the French was adopted as a common language in the French. The tricolour flag was adopted, replacing the royal standard. Before the revolution, the royal standard was representing the French, but after the revolution, it was replaced by the tricolour flag. Now see, the French Revolution has brought these kind of changes after the revolution. Now this revolution has made a huge impact in the mind of the people living in the rest part of the Europe. As a result, what happened? Many people in the Europe, they also wanted to have a kind of change in the Europe administrative system or their government. Now, these changes which were witnessed by the French or adopted by the French after the revolution has motivated many of the countries in the Europe to bring this kind of changes. So this is how the French Revolution has given the idea of nation state to many countries of the Europe. So this is one of the important aspect that French Revolution has given, and the idea of nationalism or the nation state has emerged within the Europe. So we have seen that what is the impact of French Revolution on the Europe. So what are the changes French Revolution has brought and that has impacted the European countries. Now let us continue our discussion and let us try to understand that how the making of nationalism in Europe was initiated or how it's happened. But before going to see that how the idea of nationalism got initiated in the Europe, let us try to just understand a little about it. Let us collect some ideas that with what situation or what conditions the Europe was living in. So first, if you see, you will come to know that till the mid of 18th century, such idea was not get sprouted in the Europe. Means the idea of nation state was till the mid of the 18th century, no such idea was get sprouted. You will start to know that many of the European countries like your Germany, Italy and Switzerland, they were divided into their own kingdoms. They are divided into small kingdoms, and the countries of present days like Dutch and Belgians, they were autonomous body, means they ruled themselves. Okay, and beside that, if you see that Eastern and the Central Europe, they were under the autocratic monarchical rule. It means whole of the Europe, it was divided either in the small kingdoms, or either it was an autonomous body or it was under the monarchical rule. Not only that, till the mid of the 18th century, you will also notice that most of the people living in the Europe, they live with diverse identity. You might be knowing about how in the different part of the Europe, the people, based on their different identity, they have their legacy or monopoly or hold over the society. Take the case of Belgium, take the case of Dutch, take the case of Germany. So people were living with a diverse identity, who are coming from different language background, religious background, different practices, belief and faith, and those group of people who were living in majority in a particular area, they have their own control over the society. This was the overall picture of the Europe before or till the mid of 18th century. So in such case, how or who were the people who played a major role, and the idea of nation state started to initiate it. Then let us see, these people were the new middle class. Okay, how? Let us try to understand that. The idea of the making of the nationalism in Europe initiated with the emergence of the new middle class. If you see the Europe, then you will come to know that the aristocracy, a group of people, or we can say that those people who were living with lots of privilege. How the society was divided? Let's see, there was a tenants, there was a serfs. Now, who were these tenants? Then these tenants were those group of people who were cultivating the land, paying tax to these aristocrats' family or aristocracy. Another were the serfs. Now serfs were those group of people who too were doing cultivation, but they were free from paying tax. So whole society was structured in such a way where one group of people live with lots of facilities and another group of the people, they have to go through lots of pain and sorrows. Everything was different for them. Now in such case, what we noticed in the mid of the 18th century, in many of the countries of Europe, the process of industrialization begins. The process of industrialization begins. Now this industrialization has given a boom to new group of people in the society. Now, who were this new group of people? Now, let's see. They were the businessmen. They were the professionals. Okay. Now, they were the rich people. Okay. And they were the educated group of the society, or the elite group of the society. Now this new middle class, they are comprises of businessmen, professors, or the doctors, the teachers, and the industrialists, entrepreneurs, and lawyers. So if you see this new group of people who emerged in the Europe in the mid of the 18th century, when the Industrial Revolution has initiated, now this group of people, they played a very important role in making of the nationalism in Europe. So first important note we need to understand is what? The emergence of new middle class, right? They were the businessmen, they were the professionals, okay? They were the professionals, they were the educated group of people. Okay. Now this group of people and their emergence has initiated the making of nationalism in Europe. How? Because their emergence has somewhere weakened the legacy of aristocrats' family or group, right? Apart from that, another group of people, because of whom the idea of nationalism they sprouted, they were the liberals. Okay, they were the liberals. Now, about the liberals, I will explain you in the detail in my next video. Thank you very much.